he moves to Dubai, he moves his capital, he sold his property in Canada. In 3 years down the road, there is a recession, global recession. The property market crashes, and it's going to crash pretty much everywhere in Canada as well. The rental income that he's going to get, it may also go down as well. So in that case, if he's living just off rent, now his income is reduced.
I would definitely say that 2 to 3 properties, or maybe 4 as well, could be possible in this kind of money. And then once you have this 2 million dirhams worth of investment, you can get the golden visa. So welcome, Yasin.
Thanks, Wali. Thanks for giving me the opportunity again on your channel. I think our previous podcast, went very well. So I think a lot of people got a lot of value out of that content. So hopefully this one will add a lot of information as well.
These videos are just my perspective, or let's say if Yasin is coming, Yasin's perspective. Every person has a different scenario. Family situation is different. Personal thinking is different. So everyone is thinking on a different line. This is a big disclaimer that it is not going to be implemented on everyone who's watching the video. So you can just have a look at this video, think and make your own decisions. The second thing is that I was just talking to Yasin a while back that once a new iPhone comes in, there are thousands of videos that you can see on YouTube for the review, and that is just one single iPhone, which is, let's say, costing $1,000 to $1,500. On the other hand, people should do a lot of research before moving, let's say moving to Canada, moving to Dubai, moving to UK, or anywhere in the world. So you have to have a huge kind of array of research beforehand if you are planning even for such kind of move. So in this video we are going to talk about someone who wants to move to Dubai from Canada, and they have their own reasons for that. And we are going to just read out that email and then discuss and comment on that. We'll give some commentary while we are reading as well. And I never tend to reveal the identity only if someone asks me to just say their name and their situation. I will just do that. But in this situation, definitely I will not reveal the identity, or I'll hide some of the information as well. So the email is like, my name is, I won't take the name. I will tell the age. I'm single, 39 years old, and hold permanent job with certain department in Canada, which is like government based, and he has been there for a considerable time now. I have been employed with for the past 14 years, and my current gross salary is just under 100,000 Canadian dollars. So there is another information that I'm gonna give it here, trying to not reveal much, but his family circumstances were such that he was under trauma for last 10 years, and he didn't want to he don't want to continue further like that. This trauma is over now, but he wanted to move to Dubai for those reasons, that he just wanted to make some more money for himself. And he being single, he doesn't have any family to support as well. I also hate the cold weather. My exhausting commute to and from work, 2 hours to go and 2 hours to come back home. So it's actually 4 hours. The ever increasing cost of living, the higher taxes, and just yearning to create a strategy that will give me financial freedom and more time to focus on improving my mental, physical health, which has really suffered over the last decade. So, Yasin, what do you say about this thing? Like 2 hours going to work and 2 hours coming from work. I know few people here in Dubai as well, but I didn't know that even in Canada such kind of situation exists.
Oh, it does. It does. It depends upon where you live. For example, if he's employed by government, I'm assuming he must be living somewhere near to Ottawa. So Ottawa is the government, bureaucratic city, and a lot of government jobs are actually there. So maybe he's living outside Ottawa and he's basically driving, each way. Maybe he's in Montreal. So Montreal is also 2 hours drive away from Ottawa. So maybe he's in Montreal. So it's you will find these situations where people, because of the cost of living, they are living outside of the metropolitan city. For example, GTA is very expensive now, and if somebody is working in Toronto, then they have to find an affordable place, which will be, of course, outside GTA. So if you move outside of GTA with traffic situation, it can take between 1 hour 30 minutes to 2 hour, depending upon the traffic on each way.
Okay, okay. Let's move beyond this. Okay, if I were to sell my home today, I would have a little over 1 million Canadian dollar in cash. I have worked very hard over the years to ensure that I have no other debts and no car payments. In terms of investment strategy, I'm thinking of using the sale of proceeds from my home here to buy three, perhaps four apartment, one or two bedroom in Dubai, with the hopes of living in one of them and renting the others on long-term lease or Airbnb and living off with the rental income for the next decade. He's asking if this is a good strategy. Now, after that, he said, I've seen a few of your videos, and I'm looking to for the tailored advice guidance based on my situation and the feasibility of the investment strategy I'm envisioning. I will also need someone to hold me by the hand, figuratively speaking, to execute the investment strategy if it makes sense,
Mm.
including navigating the process of getting a residency visa, opening the bank account, etc. In terms of next step, please let me know. Okay, now this is the first email he sent me, and this email, first of all, I just let you know that I am not an investment advisor or any kind of consultant, but I'm just making videos on YouTube. Yes, I do work with some of the consultant, and I can refer you to those consultants. They can be property consultants, they can be business consultants who set up the businesses, or even the immigration consultants, but I don't do myself anything. So in this case, I asked him a few questions, and I asked him if he has seen our video, the last video I did with Yasin, and he mentioned that that was the video that triggered him to write this email. So he watched already that video. I'm not sure if he understands Urdu or Hindi, because
Oh, yeah.
I have got another channel which has comprehensive videos on this topic as well as other personal finance related topics. So I asked him a few questions after that, and then he replied back. And then I will read out the second email. Thank you for the reply, and yes, I'll be okay with discussing my situation with your friend, so long as okay. Now I told him that I will be discussing this email on the video with you. So he said it's okay, it's not a problem, because I told him I have my one-on-one session, but I don't recommend to have I have limited amount of time, so I don't do one-on-one session on priority basis unless it's really something that I can be of any help. So I said, why don't we just do a video and then we see if we can do one-on-one session as well. So after that, he replied me back again. I did see your English podcast with Yasin earlier, the link you shared with me on the email. After watching your video, my thought was, since I am single, he has no kids, and have access to capital in case he sells the property of 1 million dollars, that perhaps can buy me a few good investment rental properties in Dubai. This strategy may just work. It was just matter of validating this idea with real life numbers, so to see it makes financial sense or not. So just to give
All
you an
right.
idea, 1 million Canadian dollars is 2.69 million dirhams. The desired outcome I'm hoping to achieve is to take an earlier retirement from work here in Canada and not work full time anymore. Have my money work for me in the form of rental income from Dubai that I can live off, and use my free time to just focus on myself, or take up part time job in Dubai if I choose to do so. We'll discuss about this. Now, the next part is I had thought about finding a full time job in Dubai, giving my strong lengthy work experience in Canada. But as you had noted in your video, the competition in Dubai is fierce, and my health now requiring flex hours 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. He has just mentioned the timings he would like to work. I am not sure
Yeah.
if any employer would be willing to give me such kind of opportunity, also on the medical grounds. I'm trying to figure out the numbers which would make financial sense. Would it be possible to get 12,000 to 15,000 dirhams net in my hand from rental income after expenses if I purchase an extra two or three investment real estate rental properties? If this net amount would be sufficient enough for me to cover my food, utilities, and health insurance and car insurance, for example, as a single person. So he's asking if it's enough to cover the food, utilities, and everything. The other point I wanted to understand is how quickly I can evict my tenant in Dubai for non-payment, and how easy or difficult is this process. So I think a lot of people approaching me. By the way, this is one of the USPs of Dubai. Uh, especially for people coming from the West. Eviction of tenant is one issue that you have also discussed in earlier
Yeah,
videos, right?
absolutely. This
Okay.
is this is the biggest pain here if you want to run a rental business. Like the laws are not in your favor. So
Hmm.
unfortunately,
Yeah, I mean here as well. It's not. You cannot like throw one of the tenant away if you feel like you have to
hmm.
go through a process, but it's much easier and simpler when you compare it with the West. Okay,
Yeah.
now the next part is I'm thinking of this is if this investment strategy looks promising after we have crunched the numbers to test the waters. My starting plan was to take 2 years leave of absence from work. This is a good thing because in Dubai, I don't think so. Any employer would give you this kind of facility. Purchase investment properties in Dubai and live in Dubai for 2 years to see how arrangement works out for me and solely living off the rental income. And I believe you had noted in your videos that if a person invests approximately 2 million dirhams, which is approximately 744 Canadian dollars, 1,000 Canadian dollars, with today's exchange rate of 2.69 in Dubai properties, they that can qualify for a 10 years golden visa, if I'm not mistaken. Based on your experience, okay. Now he's asking for the recommendations and these things. So first of all,
Mm.
tell me something, Yasin. Is it possible for someone to have 1 million dirhams, $1 million worth of property, and rent it out? Because I was thinking, because he is trying to move out and trying to move out as a hard handover, as we say in telecom. So hard handover is always difficult and it's always risky. So I was
Yeah.
thinking, is it possible for him to just rent this property of $1 million in Canada and then move to Dubai, test the waters here for some time, maybe 6 months or 1 year, and then think about like disposing of this property and then coming back again to live for a long time. And by the way, he mentioned a decade. So good thing is that he's clear that he might have to go back again to Canada, but at least for now he's thinking about a decade. So is it possible for
Yeah.
$1 million
Yes, it
property
is
to be rented out?
possible.
If you want to start your journey of investing in real estate of Dubai, there are two platforms that I personally use to invest. One is SmartCrowd, the other one is the Stake. These platforms allows you to invest in Dubai's property through fractional ownership. You will be able to get monthly rentals based on whatever investment you have done. If you use the referral link mentioned in the description below, you will get the referral bonus of 250 dirhams as soon as you start investing. Now let's get back to the video.
Yeah, it is possible, and I think this will be the recommended approach because um he has. I'm assuming he hasn't lived in Dubai before, so this will be his first time, and he's basically going into a very different country, different climate, a different system altogether. You just don't want to sell your entire portfolio, and especially the house is his net worth, I believe.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you don't want to sell it and then try it. I think it's always wiser to kind of try it out first. Maybe he
Hmm.
can go there, for 2 3 months and work from there while he can, or maybe take a couple of months vacation and then live there. Try to see how the experience is going to be look like, and then maybe come back and then sell the property, because once you sold the property, then it's a very you know it's a very lengthy process. You list the property, you negotiate with the buyer, you sell it, you move the capital out. It's a big step. And I think there are some tax implications that he has to consider, because when you exit Canada, you have to go through some tax planning as well. So if he has, let's say, RRSP, which is the retirement account, or if he has, let's say, TFSA, which is the tax-free saving account, he needs to take care of that as well. He cannot just leave it like this, right? So he needs to consult with a tax lawyer to understand the tax implications if he wants to leave Canada and move to Dubai. So that's one thing. So I think, because there's so many things that he needs to consider before he can actually leave Canada. So it's worth maybe try it out first, maybe go there for 2 months, 3 months. If he can work from there remotely, that's, I think, even better. If not, then maybe take like a couple of months off on medical grounds, and then just go there and live there from for like a couple of months to consider the overall changes, and then come back and then make a decision. I think That will be my preference, because it's a very big decision to kind of sell everything, close the accounts, and then move your capital to a very completely different new country, where you haven't lived there before.
Yeah. Plus, he's mentioned that now, if I go through the email again, he mentioned that he hates the cold weather. Now, I know cold weather is not good. People do bash
Yeah,
it, but here it's very hot weather for four
it's
months.
very
Let's
hard.
say, yeah.
It's another
So
extreme.
it's extreme. Other extreme. People
Yeah.
don't understand that. Sometimes people think that okay, we want to go out often. It's fine. You can go out often here. Like it's not as bad as minus 40 degrees outside. You can go outside. It's maybe let's say 45 degrees outside, but still people don't like it. So for that as well, I think people should live here for in summers to understand the problems one can face. We are used to of it, but of course indoor environment is perfectly fine. It's ambient
Um,
temperature all the time. But when you go outside, it will be a problem. But that is only for 4 months. Let's say even until May. Until now, we are recording this on 14th of May. If you want to go outside, let's say after 6 p.m., 5 p.m., it's perfectly fine. There is no issue at all. You don't get any kind of humidity right now. But after this,
mm,
let's say once you are entering into June, you will be finding that kind of humidity, which is really killing. And until let's say October, so June, July, August, September, October, yeah, 4 to 5 months are something which you should look into, because that is the reason many people who has the option, those are financially independent, they tend to have one
uh,
holiday home here in Dubai, and they live for the winters here and then go back to the western countries in the summers. This is a very important point which one need to understand in terms of weather. Now coming to, let's say, selling a property. Let's say if he goes ahead and sell the property, what are the implications, as you mentioned, what are the implications that he can possibly have? Or let's say any capital gains tax. You mentioned that there is a new capital gains tax coming up. Let's say
yeah.
even if the property is 10 years old, even then does he has to pay this capital gains tax?
No. So capital gain tax doesn't apply on primary residence. So
Okay.
because
Okay.
the home is his primary residence,
Hmm.
then there will be no capital gain tax applied. So all the proceeds that he's gonna get, it's 100% his. So
Okay.
that's one thing. I don't think he has RREP, which is for the education for the kids, but he might have RSP, which is the retirement contribution plan. So that's a tax benefit. If he has TFSA, which is also a tax benefit, he may have to report to CRA. So there are certain things that he needs to do from a tax planning perspective. I think he needs to consult with the lawyer, especially the tax lawyer who manages the immigration, which is getting outside Canada. But other than that, I think there is no implication per se. But I think selling his primary residence is a big decision. Of course, there are some emotions attached to it, and of course the whole selling process. So that he needs to do once he is 100% committed that he's gonna move, to Dubai.
Yeah. The other thing he mentioned, which makes sense for him, for a person like him, to move to Dubai, is the family situation, because as per him, he's single and he doesn't have any kids. So that is something which is probably eating his big salary chunk. Being single without any kids,
Uh,
what kind of taxes he would be paying on 100,000 Canadian dollars income? Let's say if he's in Ontario.
I think he will be paying close to 40% minimum.
40%.
Yeah, between 40 and 45%.
Yeah, I mean that is $60,000 cash in hand.
Yeah.
So 12. So basically $5,000 of, and then he's the only benefit he's getting in terms of living in Canada is probably the healthcare, because
Yes.
he's not having any kids.
Yeah, he doesn't have kids, so of course, he's not he's not getting any educational benefit, or any child credits, for example. The
Hmm.
only benefit he's getting, well, he's getting retirement contribution. So the RSP account is basically a contribution plan, right? So the government is also contributing into it. That's one benefit, and the second
That's
benefit is,
once
of
you're
course, the
assuming that he's like funding his RRSP. We are
mostly
assuming that. Yeah.
Yeah, mostly a lot of people do because it's a tax
Hmm.
benefit, right? So
Hmm.
when you do that, you don't that contribution is it's not taxable. So it is taken from your gross salary, and you don't pay tax on that.
No, but I know a few people. We discussed this earlier. The guy who went from Dubai to Canada, in last video, who had got a hit in terms of his net income because of certain reasons. Plus, he has a lot of liabilities back home as well, because he was supporting his family back home. Once he
Mm.
went there, he was unable to save for a RRSP, and he was saying, "I simply cannot afford to give any single penny right now," which is insane. But he
Oh,
was of this opinion because of the high cost of living. So there are people like that. Of course, this is not applied to everybody, but there are
yeah.
people like that who don't
Mhm.
contribute. Yeah. So
Interesting.
so now, for as we said, that there is no issue for him having kids. Um, so from my perspective, I would definitely say that he it is possible, because if you say 2.6 million dirhams, it would be, yeah, 2.7 million dirhams almost, that he can gather. But I would definitely not ask him to, even if he's going ahead with this plan, I would not ask him to sell all the the invest all the amount in the properties. Maybe he can take something out, and I would be really surprised if he doesn't have any kind of emergency fund, any kind of additional income
Right.
or additional savings on top of this, because he's only talked about $1 million, which is strange. I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
ask him, but probably he should be having some kind of money, and that kind of money, if he has, would have been easily used, let's say, to come to Dubai for a year and stay here.
Mm.
In case he doesn't understand the country, then he can go back. But if he doesn't have this cushion, I would recommend to have this cushion built up for the next 1 year, and then take this move. Again and
Right.
again, I'm telling not to because property, primary home, I'm not of an opinion that to have all the wealth tied up in your primary home. It is not
Right.
recommended at all. But many people have this kind of emotional attachment,
Yeah.
thinkings, and those kind of things, which are not equal for everybody. So it is up to up to the individual. But
Right.
let's say if he goes ahead with this strategy, I would definitely say that 2 to 3 properties, or maybe 4 as well, could be possible in this kind of money. And then once you have this 2 million dirhams worth of investment, you can get the golden visa. This golden visa is for 10 years, and this the good thing about golden visa is that you can buy one property worth more than 2 million dirhams, or let's say multiple
Multiple
properties
properties.
worth
Right.
more than 2 million dirhams. There is a evaluation certificate, if I'm not mistaken. This is the term used for the from the RERA, and you get this, or Dubai Land Department, and then you can apply based on that valuation. This visa is valid until you hold these properties, so you have to keep on holding these properties until the length of your visa. This is what my understanding is. Some people say that it is for at least 3 years, but I think it's for the length of the properties that you're holding up
And
with.
what happens once the term is expired? So on the 10th year, when the period is over, does he have to like, is it renewable? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
can that
This
visa be
golden
renewed?
visa is renewable, but things can change later on as well. But as of now,
Mm.
yes, it can be renewed on the same terms. Maybe
Okay.
at that time inflation is high. Maybe they will increase the investment amount. But at least for now,
Mm.
it is the same. So you can increase, you can reinvest. I mean,
Okay.
not reinvest, just renew the visa.
Mm.
So yes,
Assuming
this can.
he is keeping the property
Hmm.
throughout the 10-year period, and then back by then, if the government asks him to reevaluate the property value, and with all the property appreciation and all that stuff, it may come higher. Then I
Yes.
guess this will be enough to qualify for the renewal.
Yes, and the good thing about Dubai is there is no capital gains tax, whatever number of properties you have.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
also my reason for
hmm,
my attraction as well, because there is no capital gain tax, there is no property tax, right? Here we have to pay a significant portion of the property tax every month, somewhere between $400 to $500, depending upon the size. and then there are no issues with regards to talent.
Four
Talent,
to
yeah,
$500 every month.
per month, yes.
And
And
this is
it depends
let's
on the
break down.
property size.
So if you can break down me for this $1 million property that he has right now, what is the
Hmm.
cost of this property if let's say it's completely paid off?
So you mean property tax?
Property tax, maintenance, these kind of
Yeah, the
expenses.
property tax, I'm assuming must be around um, between $5,000 to $6,000 per year.
Okay.
So you can divide this by 12 to get the monthly payment.
Mm-hmm.
And then bills will be, between $300 to $500, covering all like water, electricity, gas.
Okay.
Um, so let's say, yeah, around $1,000 to cover property taxes, the utility bills. That's the only running expense. Like assuming he has paid off his mortgage, so there is no mortgage, um, then that's the only running expense that he needs
So
to he
is
needs to
there
take
any
care of.
maintenance charges on top of this? Let's say for a
No, it's
no.
if it's a freehold property, then there is no maintenance charge. If it's a leased hold,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to pay maintenance charge to the company who is maintaining the common grounds. For example, if it's a condo apartment, of course you have to pay maintenance. If it's a leased hold townhouse, so in leasehold properties you have like common grounds. For example, there is some community park or some common roads that is typically managed by a third party company, and the residents actually pay monthly contribution towards towards that management company to take care of that. So I'm assuming if his house costs $1 million, so it must be a detached property, which means it's a leasehold, sorry, freehold. So there shouldn't be any maintenance on that.
Right. So I'm assuming that it's the property tax is around 0.6% because if it's $6,000 property, then it's on $1 million. It's
Uh,
going to be yeah 0.6%, which I was calculating for a Dubai property just to because there are two types of properties. Let's say apartment and villas. So villas, the property management fees is much lower than the apartment. So if it's an apartment, then it will be around. I know a number. One of my friends and he was telling me it's around let's say 1.4% of maintenance charges, but that maintenance charges will include everything in the communal areas, and apart from your own apartment everything is included. But for a villa it would be much lower, like maybe half of it. So so property tax is almost the same as maintenance charges here in Dubai, what I can understand,
okay.
because in a let's say apartment it would be higher, in a villa it would be much less. So in if you consider a
Mhm.
villa which is a comparable property in terms of detached house in Canada, it is almost the same. So okay,
Certainly.
so in terms of property maintenance I would say it is the same for him, but yes, there is no taxes even if his properties go high.
True.
All these properties he doesn't have to pay anything. The property acquisition cost is there, so he has to consider this, because if he is going for this thing, the first year of all these properties that he's let's say going to buy, he has to pay almost 7% on the property acquisition cost. So if it's for 2 million dirhams of property he's buying for, so around 140,000 dirhams he has to pay in the acquisition cost, which will include the realtor expenses, DLD expenses, other fees included. So everything included is almost 7%. So this 7% is not recoverable in case he thinks of selling the property in next 2-3 years.
Right.
If he thinks that his
That's an
decision was not
acquisition
right,
cost.
yeah,
Yeah.
acquisition cost is not possible to be recovered this soon,
Yeah.
unless the property prices appreciate 7-10% in next 2-3 years, which is not likely, I believe. So
Mm.
this has to be taken into
Yeah.
consideration. That is why he mentioned rightly that he is looking for a decade, 10 years period time. But if he wants to sell this property sooner, then it will be a
Mm.
problem.
Yeah. I mean that's a risk I think he needs to consider because as I think we were talking before the recording, so Dubai real estate market has long history. So maybe you can go back 30 years, maximum, or maybe 40
Yes,
years.
yes,
So there is no historic proof that the property market has appreciated or it will keep its value in the long run. You don't know because it's a very short span of time in the history. Compared to Canada, we have 100+ years of history where we can see, how the prices have appreciated or depreciated in the time of economic crisis. So that's something he needs to consider. So if he winds up everything in Canada, he sell his property and move his capital to Dubai. He doesn't know that how the property market will behave in the next 10 years. Nobody can
Mm.
tell you,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
may continue to appreciate. It may stay stagnant, or it may depreciate over time, because it's all revolves around the immigration, right? And economic situation, global geopolitical situation can change anytime,
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
can have negative, positive impact as well. So that's the risk that he needs to consider, because Dubai is not a place to live prominently. So it will
Mm.
always be a temporary location. So if he's bringing his entire capital, then he needs to consider, what if something doesn't work,
Yeah.
because
And
it's not
and
easy to go back, with all the
yes.
capital again.
Yes, 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 yes. So, I mean, the cost of doing this full exercise in the span of 5 years will definitely be coming into a loss. Um,
Yeah.
okay, there is one more thing I was just thinking. Let's say if he plans to stay in Canada and sell off this
Mm.
property, or let's say rent out this property, or there is another option that, let's say, if I was watching one of the videos on a Canadian channel, they were showing one Airbnb which was meticulously done, and they had
Mm.
the family living upstairs, and they had their basement which can accommodate almost 4 people, family of 4 people,
Yeah.
and they have been doing this Airbnb for a long time, and they were saying it's profitable, and they this Airbnb was almost paying them the full mortgage, and then even if, let's say, their family is coming from somewhere else abroad or something like that, they can just block the room
Yeah.
for those days. So is it possible for him, either from this within this $1 million property, or any other way, that he can sell this property and invest somewhere else in Canada and still live without having to work in Canada? Let's forget about Dubai for now.
um then he needs to move out of Ontario,
Okay.
or yeah, like the major metropolitan cities will not offer that flexibility. Like I was also going through the same exercise last year, right? And I was considering Calgary as one of those locations where the property prices are cheaper than GTA or in Vancouver area. And let's say if you have sizable equity in one of those properties in Ontario, like the GTA area, then you can definitely cash it out and maybe buy two townhouses in Calgary, like on cash, like there is no mortgage. That will give you like a rental income right away from it. Um, or he can do Airbnb himself. But the Airbnb is not an active, it's not a passive job, right?
Passive
It's
income.
a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
actively engaged job. So you need to be stayed on top of customer queries, managing the property, getting the cleaner to clean the property after the guest checks out. So there's a lot of engagement required for Airbnb. You can only do it if you're living with the property at the same time. Like
Hmm.
the example that you gave us,
Hmm.
if they're managing the basement, then of course it's just the same house, they can
Hmm.
easily manage it. But if it's a completely different property that he needs to commute to that property to make sure everything is taken care of from a cleaning perspective and all the wear and tear, so it's a very active job. um, I, there are some companies in Canada who can manage it, but of course
They
that
charge
comes
fee.
as a cost,
Yes.
right? It's
Hmm.
not cheap. So then
Hmm.
you have to give them your revenue to kind of manage the property, which of course reduce your revenue overall.
Hmm.
So that's and I think the rules with regard to Airbnb is also changing, and it depends upon the city to city. Some cities are completely banning it, and some cities are basically restricting the Airbnb host to list um, X amount of days in a year. So
Hmm.
there are some restrictions coming in because of the housing crisis, because the properties are not available for rental, because a lot of landlords are moving away from a long term lease because of all those tenant issues. So the government is cracking down on them. So they are trying to bring those laws and legislations which will discourage the landlord to go for Airbnb.
Hmm.
So
Right.
that's also another element.
And what about the famous fire 5% or 4% rule, which is of fire, that if you achieve certain number in your life, and then you know what is the future expenses are for you. So let's say if his expenses, I don't know, I mean, $1 million would be for 4% of $1 million would be around $40,000 per year. I don't know after tax or before tax, but it's for $40,000 per year. In case, let's say he invests in S&P 500 and then wait for that return, considering that his portfolio will still be growing. But I think $40,000 is not enough for even 1% to survive, right? In a
Yeah,
in a good way.
yeah. Then of course, he needs to pay tax on that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is
So
what I was
that
thinking.
that
Yeah.
dividend income is going to be taxable.
Hmm.
Um, so let's say if he's paying 30% tax on that,
Hmm.
so that 40% is not his take home, right? So that will be reduced to, let's say,
Wow.
what, 30,000, 31,000.
Yeah.
And in that he has to pay rent and of course the food, grocery, travel cost.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Okay, the other thing I told him, I asked him actually about his job scenario. So in case he moved to Dubai, I asked him actually, it's not wise for a 39 years old to not work at all, even if he's financially independent, because this
Uh,
all fire motion and everything, this is all looking good and viable on paper. But once you go through that and stop working in this young age, it is, I think it's toxic. You cannot just
yeah.
live on your let's say investments and do nothing. It is possible that you'll do whatever you like, so I would recommend definitely to work
Mm,
in whatever capacity he can. Now if we talk about the culture of Dubai, what I've heard, compared to let's say Canada, compared to let's say other Western countries, it's
mm,
not as fascinating as it is what I can see from Europe or Canada, because there are work cultures involved, because this is a mix of South Asian culture and also Western culture. So you will find a better work culture compared to Pakistan or India, but you will not find that kind of culture that is available, let's say, in the West.
in Europe.
In certain companies, yes, but most of the cases, I would say it's not as good as you can find in the West, because I know few people who came here for the job and they didn't like it. So it's
Mm,
depending on person to person, and if you are already suffering from mental health, I don't see that you will be able to find such kind of job that will give you flexibilities in time. I mean, flexibility in timing can be there, but still, they will have certain benchmarks for you to achieve
mm,
for a kind of job that you're looking for. So
yeah,
that is something that
I
needs to be
agree.
understand, that either you do something on your own, maybe start a social media, let's say YouTube channel or something like that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I was also thinking, by reading his email, he has a good experience and career background, so he can start doing private consulting.
Consultancy, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that doesn't have to be limited to Dubai or Middle East. He can, like, we know that, one of our common friend Adnan, he set up his corporation in Canada, but he was getting clients in Middle East, as well as in Canada. So he can do something similar, right? He
Hmm.
can set up his corporation that will provide private consulting to other businesses.
Hmm.
So that doesn't need to be a permanent employment, right? So he can have short-term contracts, and then he can have some breaks between those contract terms. So that's another option he can consider.
Hmm. Yeah, because not only that, I have seen our common friend again, Behrouz. All of these, by the way, guys, Adnan and Behrouz, I've got their YouTube podcast with me, and they are listed on the channel as well. If you want, you can go ahead, and I'll just link down some of those in the description below. Those These guys, some of them started doing this YouTube, and Behrouz started YouTube being a financial, having the financial background. He was ex CFO of PNG. He started giving mentorship, and now he is building the business on based on that. So anything can happen. Like, one should not underestimate whatever they have achieved until this age of 40. But you've got a wealth of
Yes.
experience. You can do, just you have to give this. Give this to the world, and then you will see the magic happening. Similarly, Adnan's case, but everything, whatever you're doing, one thing I've seen that it's very difficult to build a business or build a thing when you are just out of your work. It is always
Yeah.
good to have something starting,
In parallel.
let's say, in parallel. Yes, if you
I agree.
but it requires time, and if somebody is already having mental health issue, it's difficult to start something on side, considering that. But anyways, like, job situation is something which needs to be understood, that Dubai is always a magnet for people around the world. South Asia, Western countries, everyone wants to have their share in this economy, and it's not as huge as people think. The brand is big, but it's not always people can get this kind of opportunity here.
Yeah.
There is another thing he asked for is about the cost of living. So first you tell me about cost of living, let's say in Canada for a single person. I'll then calculate the same for Dubai. I would say it's comparable, because for a single person, again, it depends on your lifestyle. So what can you
Yeah,
say
it
for a
does.
single person in his 40s, the cost of living can be?
Like considering his current house, right? So if he has, I'm assuming he has paid his mortgage, so it's mortgage free. So there is no mortgage or rent to be paid. Then let's say between $1,000, he is paying his property taxes, and utility bills like gas, electric, water charges, and maybe the internet as well. And then you can add cell phone plan as well. So between $1,000, so you can pay off your utilities and taxes. Then it leaves to grocery. So let's say $1,000 again for one person's grocery should be good enough. Then you add the travel cost, if he's commuting every day, if he's driving 2 hours each way. So I believe he needs at least $1,000 worth of fuel charges to cover the daily commute. Um, so you have like 1,000 plus 1,000, plus 1,000, 3,000 here. And if he's doing any activities like outing, gym, cinema, so that's something extra. So I think, let's say between three to $4,000 should be good enough. Like under 4,000,
Hmm.
he should be good enough to survive as a single person.
Okay, now for this point, I would say it's comparable to Dubai. It's almost like that. But again, depending on where he wants to live, because he's not working, so of course he can live anywhere he wants. He can even live in Ras Al Khaimah, because there are good properties there as well. But it all depends on the preference and what do you want to. And then, not to forget, by the way, the first time, one time, let's say moving costs. So he has to buy car, he has to buy, let's say, furniture for his home, because there is no option
Yeah.
to buy, to have, let's say, a property which is already furnished. Very few properties are there as furnished, being sold and being
Mm.
rented out here in Dubai.
Yeah.
So,
And
so
also he needs to consider, if he's buying, three or four properties,
hmm.
all of those properties needs to be furnished, right?
Yeah, yeah,
If he's going
yeah.
to
So
run
it
as an
depends. Yeah, it
Airbnb, for
depends.
example.
Sometimes developers are selling the property. If he's going for the off-plan property, he's getting the
Mm.
sometimes getting the properties furnished. But if it's not the case, then of course the properties will not be furnished. So you have to
Mm.
bear the initial cost of, let's say, renovating them as well, maybe. And for himself as well, if he's moving in a property, then he has to renovate that property as well, and then also the first time acquisition cost, along with,
Yeah.
let's say, if he's going for the rental, then of course he has to get the get that amount done as well. So initial, maybe for 30 to 40,000 dirhams, just to move into one of the properties, because of
Mm. But that's the one-time cost, right? So I think he
that's a
needs
one
to.
time cost. Again, it is important
Yeah.
to know if he's living here for a longer period of time. Again, if he wants to move back 2 years later, it will be a loss.
Yeah.
So
So
that has
any
to be
of those
considered.
one-time costs, whether this is renovating the property or buying a golden visa, or the closing cost for the property, that's non-refundable, not retrievable. So that is a sunk cost.
Yeah,
Once you
golden
moved
visa,
in, that cost is
yes,
gone.
gold, yeah, everything is gone, exactly. But for golden visa, I think this is a good investment if he is able to get that, just by virtue of
Yeah.
the properties.
But I'm thinking from
Cost
his perspective,
perspective.
let's say
Yes.
it's 2 years after he wants to go back,
Yeah.
he cannot recover
Yeah,
that
yeah,
cost
he
for
cannot
sure.
retrieve that. Yes, of course. And the golden
Yeah.
visa cost, by the way, a good point that I didn't mention that golden visa costs around 5,000 dirhams. And then on top of that, I think if you're applying through the virtue of properties, then on top of that, probably you have to pay the Dubai Land Department as well, because you will get a certificate mentioning the valuation of the property. So for that as well, you might have
Mm,
to shell out around 4,000 dirhams. So if you're going for a golden visa through the route of property investment, I think it will be around 9,000 dirhams, which is around, let's say, $3,000, I believe. So this is something which you need to consider as well if you're going for the golden visa. Golden visa is easily available for someone who is having 2 million dirhams property, worth of
mm.
property or more. So
Yeah.
this is one thing that needs to be taken into consideration: the moving cost, the first time moving cost, and also the sunk cost, which will not be recovered. The good thing, one thing which is standing out all the time whenever I discuss Canada and the UAE, is the car insurance, which is cheap. And yeah, we didn't included the car part as well, because he's gonna sell the car in Canada and then come here to buy another car,
Yeah.
which is one expense which
And then
needs to be
that's a
considered.
personal choice as well, right? So if he's living close to metro and he's
Yeah.
not working, so he can live off metro, or take taxi if he wants to go out for dinner, for example.
Yes, yes, it is highly possible. But again, near metro, of course, the properties will be expensive, and then you
Expensive.
feel liberated once you have cars in Dubai, because still the public transport is not as good as. I believe it's the same in Canada as well. I mean, public transport there as well, it's not as good as,
It's
let's
not,
say, a
yeah,
country
it's not perfect.
is a city like London.
Yeah.
So
In
it's
Europe, it's much better.
yeah.
The Europe public transport is much better. The train and the buses, they are always on time and it's all connected.
Hmm.
In Canada, you need to have a car for sure.
Yeah. So same for
Yeah.
Dubai as well. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we should
And
we
I'm gonna throw one more point here. So
hmm.
he's single right now. At some point, he may consider getting married. So
Yes,
he needs to
yes.
consider that element as well. Like,
Hmm.
that will increase his cost of living in
Hmm.
Dubai. Like if he
Hmm.
wants to live in Dubai and get married over there.
Yeah. Maybe once you move to Canada, maybe he find the love of his life here, and then then he has to
Yeah.
think about it. And then again, for me, it's scary. Even at age of 40, without kids, it's scary for me to think that I will not be working at all. So again and again,
Uh,
I'm just saying that something
yeah.
has to be done.
I think what he wanted to say was, he doesn't have to work to survive.
Yeah,
Like he
that
can
that
work
is
maybe
fine.
part-time
Yeah.
or do something just to survive, right? So right now in Canada, he has to, otherwise, he cannot survive and meet his expenses. So I think that's
Hmm.
what I'm assuming, that's what he was trying to say.
Mm, yeah. So from my side, I would say this is a manageable plan if you plan it properly, and whatever that whatever caveats we have given in this video, you should understand that, you should implement that. No, don't move without even thinking about let's say
The exit
repercussion of
plan.
moving, exit plan. Yes,
Yeah.
if you're
And I
okay
think
with that, yeah,
one thing I'm going to also mention here, run through some scenarios. Let's say he moves to Dubai, he moves his capital, he sold his property in Canada, and let's say in 3 years down the road, there is a recession, global
yeah,
recession.
yeah,
The property market crashes, and
yeah.
it's gonna crash pretty much everywhere, like
Hmm.
in Canada as well.
Hmm.
And the rental income that he's going to get, it may also go down as well. The rents will go
Yes.
down.
Yes.
So in that case, if he's living just off rent, now his income is reduced. So he needs to consider that as well.
Hmm.
Maybe it's a 30, 40, 30, 70% chance,
Hmm.
right? But there is a chance that there will be a recession globally, like what happened in 2008. People just left their cars at the airport parking and left the country. So
Yeah.
that could happen,
Yeah.
right? There
Pretty
is a
much.
possibility. So he needs to consider that as well. So if it happens, God forbid, then the rental income he's trying to rely on, that is going to be reduced.
Yeah, and then property values, of course, will be down as well. So you
Yeah.
cannot just rely on that. That is the reason you have to plan your finances much better than this. I mean, again, tying up all the net worth with your primary home is not a good idea. You have to have
Yeah.
different kind of income, and then we haven't discussed about, let's say, if he wants to have the properties mortgage and then bring around an arbitrage and have some kind of cash flow, positive cash flow through those property mortgages. But again, relying on that is very dangerous, because the interest rates can
Yeah.
go high, the property values can go down, rentals can go down, whatever cash flow you are thinking positive right now, maybe after 2 years it is not positive. Anything can happen.
Mm. There is another scenario. So let's say he sold his property, he take $1 million out, he invests into a mutual fund in the US.
Yeah.
Okay. That will give him a dividend payment in the US dollar.
Yes, and
Let's say he's getting
he won't be have to he won't have to give the tax from Canadian perspective at least. Uh,
correct. So
yeah.
if he becomes Dubai resident, then he
Yes.
doesn't have to pay tax on dividends.
He has to pay on the US. Let's say I would say
There
15%,
will
because it is a possibility that
Yeah,
that you.
yeah. There will be a withholding tax from the US
Yes.
because of the treaty.
Hmm.
Um, but yes, from a Canada perspective, he doesn't have to pay tax on that.
But as you're saying, it's 30% while you are living in Canada. The good thing is that if you're living in Dubai, there are possibilities that you can get 15% taxed. Although normal dividends are applied at 30%. If you, let's say, buy
Mm,
Apple stock or normal ETF, it will be attracting
yeah.
30% of dividend tax, not capital gains tax, but
Mm,
dividend tax. But in case if you're investing through Irish domiciled ETFs, then on that you can go away with only 15%. So that is a possibility, but only on ETFs.
yeah. So that is a possibility if he invests into US mutual fund that is giving, let's say, 4% return, and that portfolio is also growing, which means he's getting some dividend cash flow.
Hmm.
With 15% tax, can he live off that 4% dividend cash flow?
So let's say if it's again, if you talk about dollar terms, it's $1 million, and 4% of dividends is for the ETFs. Again, this is again, the stock market is also not going all the time up. So maybe next 2 years, 3 years, it is going down.
Yeah,
Then dividends will
it
not
can
be enough.
crash.
Yes, it can
Yeah.
crash. So it's very difficult to rely and give some recommendations like this. But at the
Mm,
same time, again, I would say this is implementable, but with all the caveats that we just mentioned. And you
yeah.
need to have some kind of cushion as emergency in case something goes wrong. Emergency fund is really important, and nowadays emergency fund is not only $1,000, $2,000. It should be at least I would say, yeah. So
I
emergency
tell
fund,
people that
yeah.
you should have at least 6 months worth of
Okay. Now,
expense
6 months
saving
is
aside.
correct once you're living in Canada. But people
Mm,
here in the UAE, I would always recommend them 1 year's worth of emergency fund, because it's not a permanent place. You can lose the job. You will not have the jobless benefits and these things. So anything can happen, and then you are on your own. So 1 year's worth of
yeah,
emergency fund. And I was talking to one of the real estate agents. Normally, real estate agents are not financially, let's say, savvy, and they go for bigger cars, they go for iPhones and so whatnot.
yeah,
But
to show
this
off.
guy, yeah,
Yeah.
but this guy, I know, he was saying that he keeps 3 years worth of emergency fund, like in terms of his expenses, because he's saying
Mm,
and he's right, because he's in a domain which is
yeah,
highly cyclical. And also one should understand that while you're in the real estate business here in Dubai, it is difficult to get loans. It's difficult to get into let's say banking agreements with different banks. The reason is that the banks also know that how turbulent this industry can be.
yeah.
So
It's very
so this is
volatile.
one. I
Yeah.
don't know about Canada, but here banks refrain dealing with real estate professionals, like to
Here
some
it's not
extent.
that difficult because you actually declare yourself as a self-employed, so you have a corporation,
Hmm.
and you file taxes to it. So there is a credit history related to that corporation as well. So banks can give you the loan, but it's not same as getting a salaried employee for sure.
I think we have pretty much covered from my side. Again, I never give out advice based on the scenarios, because so many things we are not aware. Like, we don't know how much of cash he has right now, and
Yeah.
it's not always possible to understand the full scenario.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say on paper, it looks pretty good plan
Hmm.
because from a numbers perspective, it can work out. But
Hmm.
there are other factors involved,
Yes.
and I can quote Mike Tyson's famous quote here. Everybody has a plan until they get a punch on their face.
Yes.
So you never know when you get a punch on your face at some point.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, it can work theoretically, but practically there are so many factors that you have to consider. You know,
Yeah.
recession risk, um, property devaluation, um, you know, and if he's getting married in next 2 3 years, you know, that cost of living will go up.
Hmm.
So all of these things that he needs to consider.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Yasin. I think this pretty much sums it, and then we'll get along. And I think this is a good kind of format of videos that we can have in future as well. I get a lot of
Yeah,
emails, and
definitely.
we can talk about such kind of scenarios later on.
You
Anything
know what?
from
I
your
was
side?
thinking maybe we
Yeah.
can do a live session at some point.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. We
know,
can do it. Yeah.
you can bring up those emails and we can have a live session and then
Yeah.
we just review those questions.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I mean, there are endless possibilities once you come to social media. You
Mm,
think in your own box once you are there in your own life, but once you put up yourself in front of social media, and the comments I get from Canada, though some people say that you guys are spreading negativity about Canada, but I say that this is all the
yeah,
scenarios that we can find. I mean, there are positives,
exactly.
there are negatives. Every kind of scenario is there. Even for Dubai, there are negatives as well. It's there, it's out there. You have to be your own judge. You have to understand
Mm,
what scenario you are in, and it's different for everybody. It's not same.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.